All right. So today we're going to do a deep dive into something that I think is pretty fascinating.
Okay.
And that is how artificial intelligence, or AI as everyone calls it,
Right.
is really kind of shaking up the legal world.
Yeah.
It might sound a little bit like we're jumping into some kind of sci-fi movie,
Yeah.
but it's really happening right now. I mean, law firms all over the place, they're adopting this technology.
Yeah.
They're using it to work faster to serve their clients better.
Right.
And, we've got a stack of articles and research here.
Okay.
And I think what we're going to find as we dig into this stuff is that some of it is pretty surprising.
What I find interesting is that it's already happening in very practical ways.
Right.
It's not about replacing lawyers like some people might think.
Okay.
It's more about giving them a really powerful new set of tools.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed when I was looking through these articles was how much emphasis there is on using AI to handle these really routine legal tasks. Things that a lawyer would normally have to spend hours and hours and hours doing.
Yeah. And the impact there is really significant. I mean, imagine a lawyer who needs to review thousands of contracts to make sure they're all compliant with the latest regulations. And AI can do that work in a fraction of the time that it would take a human.
Right.
And that frees up that lawyer to focus on the more complex issues.
That makes a lot of sense, but wouldn't that make legal services more expensive?
I
mean, if you're using all this fancy technology.
Actually, it often leads to lower costs for clients.
Really?
Yeah, because it can handle those routine tasks so efficiently, it can actually streamline the entire legal process. And that efficiency can lead to significant savings for clients.
So it's not just about speed.
Right.
It's also about affordability, potentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how does this work? I mean, what are these tools actually doing?
Well, it really depends on the specific tool, but a lot of them use something called natural language processing, or NLP. And this basically allows the AI to understand and interpret human language, which is really essential when you're talking about legal work.
Right.
So, for example, an AI tool could analyze a contract and identify any clauses that might be problematic based on current laws.
I can see how that would be really valuable for lawyers. But what about for their clients?
Yeah.
How does AI impact their experience?
Well, one area where it's making a really big difference is in client communication.
Okay.
So think about those basic questions that clients often have. Things like, what documents do I need to provide, or when will my case be heard?
Right.
Traditionally, lawyers or their assistants would have to answer these questions, often over and over again.
And that can take up a lot of time.
Exactly, especially if you've got a lot of clients.
Right.
But now law firms are using AI-powered chatbots that can answer those common questions instantly.
So it's almost like having this virtual assistant available all the time.
Yeah.
I can see how that would really improve client satisfaction.
It definitely does. Clients get the information they need quickly and easily. Lawyers are freed up to focus on more strategic work.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation.
I've also seen some examples of AI actually being used to generate legal documents like wills or contracts.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've come across?
I have. It's important to note, though, that this is still a developing area.
Okay.
The AI can create kind of a basic framework for the document, but you still need a human lawyer to look it over, make sure it's accurate, and that it actually meets the client's needs.
So it's a tool to assist lawyers.
Exactly.
Not to replace them entirely.
Precisely. And I think that's a really crucial point to keep in mind as we kind of explore this world of AI and the law.
Yeah.
It's about collaboration, not replacement.
Okay, so we talked about routine tasks and client communication. What about legal research?
Yeah.
I remember from my own very brief stint in law school how time-consuming and frustrating that whole process can be.
Oh, absolutely. Traditional legal research can feel like you're searching for a needle in a haystack.
Right.
You've got mountains of case law statutes, regulations, legal commentary.
Yeah.
It's incredibly daunting, even for experienced lawyers.
And I imagine it's only gotten more complex.
Oh, yeah.
With just the sheer volume of information that's available online these days.
That's where AI is really starting to revolutionize things.
Okay.
Instead of manually searching through all those databases, lawyers can now use these AI-powered tools that can analyze vast amounts of legal data and pull out what's relevant in seconds.
So it's like having a super-powered research assistant.
Yeah.
That can go through all that information and pinpoint exactly what you need.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And these tools are getting incredibly sophisticated. Some of them can even use natural language processing to understand your research query. even if it's phrased in just everyday language.
Okay.
And then they can pull up relevant case summaries. Statutes even suggest related topics that you might not have thought of.
So instead of spending hours poring over dusty old law books,
Right.
you can get the information you need almost instantly.
Exactly. And that speed and efficiency can make a huge difference in a legal case where time is often of the essence.
Okay, so we've talked about how AI can help with these routine tasks, client communication, legal research. But what about kind of the bigger picture?
Yeah.
How is this impacting the legal profession as a whole?
Well, one of the biggest impacts is on the competitive landscape.
Okay.
Law firms that are embracing AI, they're able to offer faster service, more accurate advice, a better overall client experience.
So it's becoming a key differentiator for firms that want to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And for clients, it means access to a level of legal service that just wasn't possible before.
That's a really interesting point. So it's not just about lawyers keeping up with technology.
Right.
It's about using technology to improve the quality of legal services for everyone.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that's something we're going to be exploring in a lot more depth as we continue our deep dive.
Absolutely.
Well, this is already a lot to digest, but I'm really curious to hear more about how AI is going to reshape the legal landscape in the years to come. We'll be back in the next part of this deep dive to explore some of those future possibilities.
Okay.
So stay tuned. Okay, so we've seen how AI is already making its mark on the legal world. But what about the future? Where do we go from here? What's on the horizon?
Well, if we take what we've talked about so far a step further, one area that I find really fascinating is the development of even more advanced legal reasoning tools.
Okay.
So right now, AI is great at, finding information, identifying patterns. But imagine AI that can actually understand complex legal arguments.
Wow.
Predict how a case might turn out, even maybe suggest legal strategies.
So you're saying lawyers could actually get strategic advice from an AI?
Potentially.
I'm not sure if that's exciting or a little bit unsettling.
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
But it's something we need to start thinking about. Because as AI technology advances, it's going to be able to analyze and interpret legal data in ways that humans simply can't.
Yeah.
And that could have a really profound impact on how lawyers approach cases and ultimately how they make decisions.
But wouldn't that require like a deep understanding, not just of the law, but of legal strategy, how judges think?
Right.
Can AI really get that nuanced?
That's the challenge. But that's also what makes this whole area so exciting.
Right.
Researchers are working on AI systems that can learn from huge amounts of legal data, including case precedents, legal arguments, even judicial rulings.
Wow.
The goal is to create AI that can actually think like a lawyer and provide valuable insight that a human lawyer might not immediately see.
So maybe instead of replacing lawyers, AI could become this powerful partner, almost like a co-counsel, helping them to analyze these cases from all angles.
Exactly.
And I guess that could lead to better outcomes for clients.
That's the hope.
Okay.
Of course, there are a lot of challenges to overcome before we get to that point.
Yeah.
But I think the potential is huge.
We talked earlier about how AI could make legal services more efficient.
Right.
Potentially more affordable.
Yeah.
Could it also make the legal system fairer?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And it's one that researchers are really taking seriously.
Okay.
You see, even the most well-intentioned judges and lawyers can sometimes be influenced by unconscious biases.
Okay.
It's just part of being human.
Right.
But AI can be trained on these massive and diverse data sets that can actually help to mitigate those biases.
So you're saying that AI could potentially help to level the playing field and ensure that everyone gets a fair hearing.
Exactly.
Regardless of their background or their circumstances.
That's a very powerful concept.
It is.
Of course, it's not a simple solution.
Right.
And there are a lot of ethical considerations to work through.
Yeah.
But the potential is definitely there for AI to play a really significant role in promoting fairness and equity in the legal system.
This all ties back to something we talked about in the first part, about access to justice.
Right.
Could AI help to make legal services more accessible to people who can't afford traditional representation?
Absolutely. Imagine AI-powered tools that can guide people through these simple legal processes, like filing for a divorce or creating a will, without having to hire an expensive lawyer.
Right.
That could be a game changer for a lot of people.
It would be like having this virtual legal assistant available to anyone regardless of their income.
And it's not just about the cost. AI could also help to overcome language barriers.
Oh, so.
By providing legal information in multiple languages.
Okay.
So this could make the law more accessible to immigrant communities.
Right.
Other groups that might struggle to navigate the legal system in a language that isn't their native tongue.
So AI could help to break down those barriers and create a more inclusive legal system.
That's the idea.
That's really exciting to think about.
Yeah.
But I know there are also concerns about AI.
Sure.
I mean, it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Right, of course not.
Yeah.
As with any powerful technology, there are potential downsides that we need to be aware of.
What are some of the things that we should be thinking about?
Well, one concern is data privacy.
Okay.
AI relies on massive amounts of data to work.
Right.
And a lot of that data is really sensitive personal information. So we need to make sure that data is being protected, that it's being used responsibly. We don't want to create a system where people's privacy is compromised in the name of efficiency.
That makes sense. We need to be careful about how we use and share our data, especially when it comes to something as important as legal matters.
Right. And another big question is accountability.
Right.
If an AI system makes a mistake or leads to an unfair outcome, who is responsible?
Right.
Is it the developer who created the AI? Is it the lawyer who used it?
Yeah.
These are really complex questions that we need to grapple with.
Yeah. It seems like we're entering a little bit of uncharted territory here.
I think so.
There's so much potential for good, but also the possibility for things to go wrong.
That's why it's so important to have these conversations, to really talk openly and honestly about the ethical implications of AI.
Okay.
And we need to develop clear guidelines and regulations to make sure that it's being used in a way that is fair, transparent, and accountable.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's also about the human values.
Right.
The principles that are guiding its development and how it's applied.
It's about striking a balance between embracing this new innovation and protecting people's rights.
Okay, so we've talked about the exciting possibilities of AI in law.
Right.
We've talked about some of the potential risks and challenges. Now I'm wondering, how can individuals prepare for this? Navigate this AI-driven future of law?
That's a great question, and it's something we're going to be discussing in a lot more detail in the final part of our deep dive.
So we've talked about this potential for AI to just revolutionize the legal field, but it's all a little bit abstract, until we actually bring it down to the level of, like the individual person.
Right.
So let's talk about you, the listener.
Okay.
How can you prepare for this? How could you navigate this AI-driven future of law?
Well, it's important to remember that even though AI is changing the legal landscape, the fundamental principles of law and justice, those are still the same.
So it's not like we need to throw out everything we know about the law and start from scratch.
Not at all.
Okay.
But it does mean staying informed.
Okay.
The legal world is constantly evolving.
Right.
And AI is really accelerating that evolution. So, reading articles, listening to podcasts like this one.
Right.
And just generally being curious about how technology is impacting the legal field.
Yeah.
I think that's more important now than ever.
So basically, being a lifelong learner is key.
Exactly.
Especially in a field as dynamic as law.
And it's not just about understanding the technology itself. It's also about being aware of the broader implications of AI on law and society.
I know some people listening might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, maybe even a little intimidated by AI.
Right.
It can seem like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's feeling that way?
I think those feelings are understandable. Change can be unsettling.
Yeah.
Especially when it involves something as powerful as AI. But it's important to remember that AI is a tool.
Okay.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
It really comes down to how we as a society choose to develop and use it.
So instead of fearing AI, We should focus on understanding it and shaping its development
Exactly.
in a way that benefits
We
everyone.
need to be active participants
Yeah,
in this technological revolution,
not passive bystanders.
not just letting it happen to us.
Right, exactly.
And that brings up another crucial point,
Okay.
which is advocacy.
Right.
As AI becomes more integrated into our legal systems,
Right.
it's so important that we advocate for policies and regulations that protect our rights
Yeah.
and ensure that AI is being used fairly and transparently.
So we need to make our voices heard.
Hmm.
We need to engage in public discourse. Hold policymakers accountable for creating an AI-powered legal system that serves everyone,
Right.
not just a select few.
Exactly. And on a more individual level,
Okay.
you can advocate for your own rights by simply asking questions.
Okay.
If you're interacting with a law firm or a legal service that's using AI,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to ask how it's being used.
Mm-hmm.
What steps are they taking to protect your privacy and ensure fairness?
That's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
We should all be informed consumers of legal services,
Right.
regardless of whether AI is involved or not.
Exactly.
But let's get practical for a moment.
Okay.
Are there any specific skills or knowledge areas that you think might become even more valuable
Yeah.
in this AI-driven legal landscape?
Absolutely critical thinking skills,
Oh.
for example, will be more important than ever.
Okay.
While AI can process information and identify patterns,
Right.
it's still humans who need to interpret those results, make judgments, and apply legal principles.
So those law school exams that focused on analyzing these complex legal scenarios,
Right.
maybe they were preparing us for an AI-powered future.
Maybe so.
Along with critical thinking, strong communication skills, I imagine will be really essential.
Absolutely. As AI takes on more of those routine tasks, lawyers are going to need to focus on building relationships with clients,
Okay.
explaining complex legal concepts in a way that anyone can understand,
Right.
and advocating effectively on their behalf.
So it's not just about knowing the law.
Right.
It's about being able to connect with people.
Yeah. And finally, I would add adaptability
Okay.
as a really key skill.
Okay.
The legal profession is changing so rapidly,
Yeah.
and those who can embrace change, learn new technologies, and adapt to new ways of working,
Right.
those are the people who are going to be best positioned to thrive.
It sounds like lifelong learning curiosity, a willingness to embrace new challenges are really essential for anyone who wants to navigate the future of law. And as we wrap up this deep dive into AI and the law, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The future is not predetermined. It's something that we are shaping right now collectively.
Right.
Through our choices, our actions, and our commitment to using technology like this in a way that serves justice
Right.
and advances the common good.
That's a great point. It's not about being swept away by the tide of technological change. It's about being the captains of our own ships,
I love that analogy.
steering the course
Yeah.
toward a future where AI and the law work together
Right.
to create a more just and equitable society.
Well said. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it has given you a better understanding of how AI is transforming the legal landscape and that it's empowered you to navigate this really exciting and evolving field.